The stadium lights were blinding, the crowd deafening. Cameras clicked, commentators roared, and the hum of thousands of voices blended into one overwhelming wave. For most people, it was just another championship game. But for Armin, it was a defining moment of his life. He stood at the free throw line, sweat dripping down his forehead, heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. 2 seconds left on the clock. One basket, and his team would win the national title. Miss it and all the sacrifices, all the long nights of training, all the whispers of doubt would echo louder than ever. But it wasn't just a ball in his hand that made his knees tremble. It was the noise outside and the noise within. Armin had always been a dreamer, from the small streets of his hometown. He grew up with a burning love for basketball. But with every step he took toward greatness, the voices around him grew louder. You're too short. You're wasting your time. Be realistic, Armin. People like you don't make it. His friends moved on with their lives, finding stable jobs, marrying young, settling down. They told him to stop chasing something that would never happen. Even his father, who loved him deeply, would sigh and say, "Son, maybe it's time to think about a real career." But it wasn't just their voices. It was his own. At night, when his body ached from practice, when rejection letters came from bigger teams, when injuries knocked him down, he'd hear that inner whisper, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not enough." That was the noise. The turning point came on a rainy evening, when Armin sat broken on the bench outside the gym. He had just been cut from another tryout. His shoes were muddy, his jersey soaked, and his spirit crushed. Coach Imran, the old man who had trained hundreds of kids before, sat beside him. He didn't say much at first. He simply handed Armin a towel and let the silence speak. Finally, he said, "Do you know what separates winners from quitters, Armin?" Armin shook his head. Coach looked him in the eye and said, "Winners know how to silence the noise. They hear the doubts, the criticism, the fear inside their own head, but they don't let it control them. They focus, and when they focus, they win." That night, something shifted. Armin realized he couldn't stop the noise. The world would always have opinions, and his mind would always wrestle with fear. But he could choose not to listen. He could choose to focus. From then on, Armin changed everything. When friends mocked him for practicing instead of partying, he stayed on the court. When his body screamed with pain, he whispered back, "One more rep." When doubt crept in, he drowned out with focus. He trained before dawn, ran when the city was asleep, studied game tapes like a scholar, and turned every failure into fuel. He learned to block out the noise not by fighting it, but by letting his focus grow louder than fear. And slowly, opportunities came. A small league team noticed him, then a college scout, then the national championship. But the real battle wasn't the opponents he faced. It was still the noise. Now here he was, the noise of thousands pressing in on him, the weight of his dreams balancing on his shoulders. He closed his eyes. For a moment, he wasn't in the stadium anymore. He was back in the quiet gym at dawn, the ball bouncing against the empty floor. He was back on the streets, shooting at a crooked rim nailed to a brick wall. He was back with Coach Imran's voice echoing. Silence the noise. Focus. Win. He took a deep breath, opened his eyes. The crowd was still screaming, but inside him there was silence. Only him, the ball, and the basket. He shot. The ball soared, kissed the rim, and dropped in. The buzzer sounded. The crowd erupted. His teammates lifted him on their shoulders. He had won, not just a game, but the war against doubt. After the celebrations, after the cameras turned away and the crowd disappeared, Armin sat alone in the locker room. He stared at the trophy shining beside him. But strangely, that wasn't the part that brought tears to his eyes. It wasn't the medal. It wasn't the applause. It was the silence within. For the first time in his life, the noise had lost. He realized that winning wasn't just about the scoreboard. It was about conquering yourself, about learning to quiet the voices of fear, doubt, and distraction so you can hear the one voice that matters, the voice of your purpose. We all live surrounded by noise. The world tells you you're not enough. Social media screams that others are ahead of you. Friends and family may doubt your path. And inside your own mind, fear whispers that maybe you're not capable. But here's the truth. The noise never stops. If you wait for silence before chasing your dream, you'll wait forever. The secret is what Armin discovered. You don't have to stop the noise, you just have to focus louder than it. Every time you feel overwhelmed by doubts, ask yourself, what am I focusing on? The noise or my purpose? When you focus on your dream, your discipline, your next step, suddenly the noise fades. And when you master focus, you don't just win trophies, you win your life. Armin's story is not just about basketball. It's about all of us. Whether your dream is to build a business, write a book, become a leader, or simply live a meaningful life, you will face the same battle he did. The noise will come. But the victory belongs to those who choose silence over distraction, focus over fear, and purpose over doubt. So, the next time the world screams that you can't, remember this. Silence the noise. Focus. Win.